Uncertainty tolerance is the ability to stay steady in the middle, the space where you've planted the seeds, but you haven't seen the fruit yet. You haven't even seen anything pop out of the soil. Welcome to the Connect Method Parenting Podcast, where correction is out, connection is in, and your kids want to listen to you. I'm Andy Martineau, creator of Connect Method Parenting, here to help you stay calm, confident, and connected no matter what. Hello, my friends. Welcome back to the Connect Method Parenting Podcast. I hope you had a beautiful Thanksgiving, or at least a Thanksgiving that was eventful. If you aren't in the United States, I hope you had a beautiful weekend. Ours was very eventful because it took us 28 hours to drive round trip to be with family. 28 hours in the car was a lot longer than we thought it was going to take us for a number of reasons. The highway was shut down. They rerouted us 4 hours on the way back home, and we were so close. It started snowing. And I am a bit of a nervous Nelly when it comes to driving in the snow. Being raised in Phoenix, Arizona, I didn't have any experience driving up with the snow. Thank goodness my husband lived a few years in Canada. He's a pro, so he took over once we started getting some pretty good snow. And I do have to say also, if my mom's listening, bravo on the food. Oh my gosh, the food was amazing. We ate for 4 days straight. 4 days. There were 34 pies, with 52 people attending the Thanksgiving feast. And I'm not exaggerating. Those are real numbers. And we ate almost all of them over the 4 days. Because in my family, we start on Wednesday making pies. We eat on Thursday, which is Thanksgiving. We eat more on Friday and Saturday. So over 4 days, we started to bake and eat those pies and all the other food. It was amazing. There was almost a pie for every person attending. We just didn't want anyone to feel emotionally neglected. But I have to admit, come clean, that by Sunday, when we were driving home, I was so uncomfortable. My stomach did not like how much I had eaten. I felt like I needed to be deflated like a Thanksgiving balloon. I'm feeling much better today. It was amazing. It was chaotic. It was beautiful. It was messy. It was emotional. And it was the perfect way for us to spend our Thanksgiving. It was so fun. We saw both sides of our family. It was just great. And as I was thinking about what I wanted to talk to you all today about, and I was reflecting on Thanksgiving, I thought, this is a perfect segue into today's topic, which is uncertainty tolerance. Because if there's anything that will stretch your tolerance of uncertainty, it's 24/7 with family during the holidays, a long distance road trip, snowstorms, and the temptation of having 34 homemade pies sitting in front of you. Today, we're going to talk about the kind of uncertainty that really matters. It's the uncertainty of parenting, the uncertainty of raising those kiddos of yours, the uncertainty of being a mom and dad. If dads are listening, you're included in this, but mostly moms are listening, so I'm going to talk to you all moms. The uncertainty of being a mom who is simultaneously showing up for herself, trying to show up for her kids, trying to show up for hobbies or her work. And we're going to talk about one of the most powerful new identities that we can take on when we're facing all this uncertainty with parenting and life right now. So many uncertainties with life. And the thought I want to share with you is I'm okay, even if this doesn't work out right away. So let's dive in. I want to start by defining uncertainty tolerance. I like to define uncertainty tolerance as your ability to be in that liminal, that in-between space between what you want and when those results that you want actually come, when you get them, without collapsing, without quitting, without grabbing onto negative predictions to try to feel safe. So let me say that again, because this is so important. Uncertainty tolerance is the ability to stay steady in the middle, the space where you've planted the seeds, but you haven't seen the fruit yet. You haven't even seen anything pop out of the soil. This relates deeply that I see in my life every single day, that I see in the parents I work with, is that our brains would rather grab the certainty of failure than tolerate the possibility of success. Do you get what I'm saying here? Isn't that so wild that we would do that? But because we have failed in the past, or we felt uncertain or inadequate in the past, our brains tend to want to stay in that vibration and that energetic signature, whatever you want to call it, in that way of being. Because even though it feels terrible, it feels familiar. So our brains would rather grab the certainty of failure than tolerate the possibility of success. Because with the possibility of success comes a lot of uncertainty, a lot of unpredictable outcomes, a lot of things that we might use to shame and blame ourselves. And that is exactly what I see so many of us do. When it comes to parenting, this might look like the kids rolled their eyes at us and we jump to our relationship must be doomed. Or our kids exploded again. They lost their temper. They had a big fit or a big fight. And we might think this connection stuff isn't working. Or they slammed their door in our face and we think I'm losing them. Or we tried some new approach and nothing instantly changed. So we think I must be doing it wrong. So we latch on to the certainty of disaster because disaster feels more predictable than growth. The problem is that life and parenting is like 95% uncertainty. And if you can't tolerate that uncertainty, we end up defaulting to trying to control, to correct. We start catastrophizing. We start judging ourselves and our kids. We feel hopeless and we give up before anything has a chance to grow. It's like we plant this seed in the soil, but we want to make sure we planted it. So we go dig it up and then we bury it again. And the next day we dig it up again and then we bury it again. And we wonder why nothing's happening. And this is where Connect with the Parenting enters the conversation, the inner dialogue in our heads and says, you don't need certainty about your child's behavior, what they're going to do or not going to do in any given moment. You need certainty about you. Here's the thing about uncertainty in parenting that I found for myself, that I found in parents I work with. I think you're going to resonate with it. We keep trying to get certainty from our child. We want their behavior to reassure us. We want their tone, their mood, their choices, their attitude to tell us, hey, mom, you're doing a fantastic job. Everything's on track. Nothing to worry about over here. We all secretly want that. But kids are not wired to be our providers of certainty. They're still developing. Their brains are still pruning, forming, and reorganizing all those neural pathways all at once. Their experience of life, their emotions, their decision-making ability is bumpy, it's unpredictable, it's inconsistent, but it's also beautifully human and developmentally appropriate. But all this means that if we try to get certainty from them, we are going to struggle. Maybe we'll feel chronically anxious. Maybe we will feel nervous, worried, defensive. We're not going to show up the way we want to. And it's not going to create more certainty in us. And it's certainly not going to create more certainty in our kids' ability to trust us. So in CMP, the switch is this. We don't get certainty from what our child does or doesn't do. We create certainty in ourselves. And here's what we get to be certain of. We can be certain that we are a safe place for our children. Not because you always say the perfect thing, not because you're calm 100% of the time, but because safety is a direction that you keep choosing. Safety is the energy your child feels when you stay present, when you stay calm, when you stay curious, instead of punishing, instead of blaming, instead of losing your mind. Safety is the emotional permission for them to be real. I also believe we can be certain in our ability to regulate ourselves. Not that you never get dysregulated. That's perfectionism. That's crazy. You're never going to get to that place. So drop that one. But knowing that you can come back to center, you can learn how to breathe. You can learn how to pause. You can repair. You can begin to notice your triggery parts and get better and better at noticing them and responding instead of reacting to them. I also love the idea that we can be certain that we know how to reconnect. Because connection isn't a one-time achievement, it's a practice. You know how to come back after things get messy. That's a super powerful skill and something we can be certain that we are developing and getting better at. You can know how to find the soft moments, the shared glance, the tiny openings. You know how to make the first move towards connection, towards repair, without making it this big deal, without catastrophizing. I think that's so powerful to be certain in that trajectory and that decision to be better and better at that. We can also be certain that we can repair when things fall apart. I kind of mentioned that before, but this is huge. So I got to bring it out, shine a spotlight on it, because repair is the superpower of secure attachment. We don't need to prevent ruptures from happening. They're going to happen. I mean, sure, we want to do our best to minimize those and to mitigate things that are tricky in an intentional way, but we don't need to think we have to prevent every single disruption in connection. We just need to show our children that we can find each other again and that the relationship is never in jeopardy. Another phrase I love to remind myself that I can be certain of, or really a way of being that I can be certain of, is I can pause instead of panic. This one was huge for me. It's been really hard for me to develop this because I go right into panic and fear. That's my go-to. And this one shift can change your whole home. A pause brings your thinking back online. A pause tells your child, hey, you are more important than this problem. A pause is the difference between reacting to the moment and leading in the moment. Another thing that we can be more and more certain of that we can bring to the table is I can tolerate big emotions. My big emotions, my kids' big emotions. Kids feel everything stronger than, well, I don't know if they felt stronger. It feels like they felt stronger, but I was about to say that and I want to be careful with my words. They definitely feel the emotions in a way that's different than adults because their prefrontal cortex isn't fully online. And when we can come in and say, hey, I can tolerate your big emotions, I can witness what you're feeling without fixing it. You can sit in the swirl of those big emotions, that messy middle, until things settle down, no problem. That speaks volumes to our kids. Another thing that I love to lean on and to remember is that I can stay in this long enough for development to take hold. So much of parenting is simply outlasting the phase they're in, not muscling through it, not forcing it to end, just staying steady long enough for maturity to land, because kids grow and brains mature and things change and phases pass, but only if we don't abandon the process in the middle. So if we can just remember, hey, I'm here for the long haul. This is not something I'm stepping away from. I can stay in this long enough for development to take hold. And I can be okay even when they're not okay yet. This is powerful emotional leadership. This is what nervous system regulation looks like in a family. This is what secure attachment feels like. When we're showing up like this, we can almost feel it in the air. You stay grounded in your okayness, not because everything's going well, but because you are being who you want to be in that moment. We are meant to be ahead of them emotionally. Not better, not superior, just a few steps further ahead in our development, because we're the one with more life experience, more perspective. We have hopefully more emotional tools, more ability to zoom out, more capacity for nuance. And all of those things allow us to increase our steadiness, our ability to zoom out big picture, to not be swept away by our nervous system in the moment. And that steadiness is not just a helpful thing. I believe it is essential for us to be able to understand that this is something we can bring to the table, that I can be okay even when my kids aren't okay, to allow them to relax and to developmentally mature and feel those emotions. We can be that emotional anchor. We can be the steady one. You could think of it as the lighthouse in the storm, the person in the midst of the chaos that isn't getting swept away by it. In essence, when we're being this kind of parent, we are saying, I don't know how long this part of the picture or the story or your life is going to last, but I know I can handle the middle. I can handle this. I can handle the uncertainty. I can handle the big emotions. And that middle, the murky, messy, uncertain middle, is where growth happens. Not when things are polished, not because our child's never dysregulated and the house is always calm. Growth happens in the uncertainty when we can be the person who allows them to feel their big emotions and come back to safety, come back to regulation. And it's the same for us. Growth happens when we can sit in that uncertainty, when we can tolerate not knowing exactly what's going to happen with our child or with this tantrum or with this behavior, but staying there and being present and regulated. That's what happens when we stay, when we breathe, when we don't try to rush the process, when you don't confuse the moment with the story, when you trust that change is happening, even when you don't see evidence of it in this moment. That is uncertainty tolerance. That is attachment leadership. That is what Connect Method parenting brings to the table. Now let's walk through how uncertainty shows up in real everyday parenting moments, because this is where the work actually happens, not just in theory, not just by learning today as we talk about uncertainty tolerance as a concept. That's not where the real learning happens. It happens when, you're on your kitchen floor or you're in your car or you're at bedtime and things are going bananas and you're wondering, what is happening? Is any of this working? And I want you to hear this. Uncertainty shows up differently at every developmental stage, but your identity can stay the same. You can anchor yourself in the thought, I'm okay, even if this doesn't work right away. So let's go through some examples of what this might look like to have uncertainty tolerance in real life, because that's where the growth is going to happen. That's where you're going to get better at uncertainty tolerance. So we'll start with toddlers and we'll work our way up through teens. So toddler, classic example. You took them to Target. They wanted the sugar cereal with Tony the tiger on it. You said, nope, we're not doing sugar cereal. We're going to do bananas for breakfast. They don't like that. So they lay on the floor like a fainting Victorian heroine, something very dramatic and over the top. And your brain floods with, everyone's going to judge me. I should be able to calm them down faster. Maybe something's wrong with me. Why can't I just get through one shopping trip without a big tantrum? So here's the uncertainty. You don't know how long this meltdown will last, what exact combination of connection and presence will help, whether they're about to settle down or if they're about to escalate. And that's the uncertainty in the moment. And the CMP anchor is, I'm okay, even if this doesn't resolve quickly. My calm, my ability to stay present in this moment is more powerful and more important than anything else, more powerful than this chaos, this temper tantrum. So you breathe, you kneel down, maybe you stay near, you hold space, and maybe you scoop them up and walk out to the car. I had to do that many times when my kids were little. Maybe you allow them to cry for a minute, but regardless, you stay emotionally aware of what's going on in your body, the uncertainty of, I don't know what's happening. People might judge me. I don't know what this child's going to do. Allow yourself to have space to feel that uncertainty without making it mean that anything's gone wrong. Because I'm okay, even if this doesn't resolve quickly. My presence, my emotional capacity to stay regulated the best I can in this moment is more important than anything else. So that's one example. But let's say it's time for bed and the bedtime routine is not going so well. Nothing is happening in the way that your tiny little sweet child would like it to go. And they don't want to say yes to any of your requests. They don't want to get ready for bed. They don't want to take off their shoes. They don't want to eat dinner. And your brain wants to solve the problem. Your brain wants certainty. It's what it wants. It wants certainty. And sometimes we want to be certain that they're being defiant. That's what we latch onto. I'm losing control. This shouldn't be happening. And that is what I mean by we would rather hook our cart to failure and to certainty that we are not doing a good job, that our child is not doing what they should be doing, which is really one flavor of failure because that's so familiar. But this toddler behavior is developmental. Their job is to stay no. Your job is to stay steady. So if you can sit in the uncertainty of, okay, this is where they are today, and I don't know exactly what's going to solve this problem, but I know that I can be here. I can be present. I can be conscious of what's going on. I can increase my tolerance for uncertainty. I'm okay even if they resist for a while. My presence, my ability to be here in this moment is going to help me be the person I want to more than anything else. My presence is bigger than their no. And it is. Your calm consistency, that's what's going to help shape their nervous system. That's what's going to help regulate them. So let's jump into the tweens. Tweens are this magical, awkward, in-between space where they are trying to figure out themselves, and we're trying to figure out who the heck they are now as well. They're not as cute and adorable as we might say a toddler is, with those big chubby cheeks. They have more words to say that might be hard for our brains to hear sometimes. They have a little more autonomy. And there might be a day where your tween suddenly doesn't want to give you a hug, doesn't reciprocate any affection towards you, and you might feel the uncertainty of what that means and how that feels in your body. Your fear might whisper to you, they're pulling away. This is the end of an era. Our closeness is fading. And that's going to bring up a lot of uncertainty. Well, I don't know what I'm going to do about this. But the truth is they're sorting out their independence. They're renegotiating boundaries inside of their own skin. And so to be able to sit in this uncertainty for a little bit, I'm not sure exactly how this is going to resolve, but I trust that I can be okay even if our closeness feels different today. And their body boundaries, meaning they don't want to hug today, they don't want to be touched today, aren't a rejection. And we can stay warm and available and not intrusive and invitational. This is what happens when we have uncertainty tolerance. We can be uncertain with what's going to unfold in this relationship with this teenager, or even what's going on with them. We can feel uncertainty in our body, but we can also increase our tolerance of that emotion so that we can simultaneously stay warm and available and invitational. And as a result, teach them that this relationship isn't fragile at all. They have nothing to worry about. Okay. And let's skip to a teen that just somehow, quote unquote, forgets to do their chores or their homework. Maybe you say, hey, take that backpack to your room, and they drop it and they walk away, and you are swirling with what is happening. There's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of maybe nervous energy, judgment. It's all, to me, in this context, swept into this uncertainty of what's going to happen. And if we can increase our tolerance of the emotions of uncertainty and not let them overtake us, if we can realize that them trying to figure out themselves right now and them trying to juggle identity and social awareness and self-worth and belonging, and that their executive function is like a flickering light bulb, sometimes bright, sometimes off, and stay anchored in this belief that I'm okay, even if this takes reminders, nothing has gone wrong. That will allow us to grow in our capacity to sit in the discomfort, the uncertainty of what's going on or what's the next step for us, and instead choose to respond in a way we really love. So uncertainty tolerance is so important because we're going to continue to hit it when the results we see in our life don't match up with the expectations we have. Now let's do a couple more examples with the teen years. If you have teens, this might be helpful. If you don't, this is going to forecast what you might face in the future. There is so much changing for them. Uncertainty tolerance is very powerful because when your teen ignores your attempt, let's say just to connect, like maybe you say, hey, how was your day today? And they say, fine. They shrug and they walk away. Your brain might leap into storytelling and start saying things like they're pulling away, something's wrong, they don't like us, they don't like me. But most of the time, that's probably not even the case. They're probably just tired, overstimulated. Maybe they're conserving social energy, or maybe something is off with the relationship. No matter what it is, to be able to sit in the uncertainty and the discomfort instead of react to it is going to change the game. If you can say to yourself, okay, even if connection doesn't show up today, even if my child doesn't want to connect with me, they don't want to talk to me today, I'm going to choose to connect with them consistently, no matter what. I'm not going to let this result I got today change how I think about my child or myself or the relationship. I'm going to try to be more curious and more compassionate. That's going to allow you to create what you want, because connection isn't measured in daily responses. It's really measured in who you are consistently. So if your teen rolls their eyes at you or slams their door in your face or sighs in that dramatic way, this is development speaking, not disrespect. This is their brains figuring out how to navigate challenging things. And even though your brain might want to tighten up or get defensive and say something like, don't act like that, you can't talk to me that way. If instead you can sit with the emotions that come up when they roll their eyes or slam their door or sigh dramatically at you and just say, okay, this is what's happening right now. Maybe they're overwhelmed. Maybe they're disorganized. Maybe they're emotionally overloaded. Maybe something happened at school, so they're having a lot of social stress. And tell yourself, I can tolerate the uncertainty that is coming up in my body because of the dysregulation they're feeling or they're having. I don't need them to be calm. I don't need them to be calm for me to be calm. Your steadiness is going to teach them how to come back online. And that is everything. You know, when your teen is melting down emotionally, tears, yelling, door slamming, shutting down, for a lot of us going to peak a lot of uncertainty. We don't know what's going to happen. What do they need? Do they need us to come in closer? Do they need us to give them some space? This is peak uncertainty. And what you say internally is going to make a big difference. So if you say, I'm okay, even if I don't know what to do right now, even if this doesn't fix instantly, you stay present. Maybe you take a couple deep breaths. You try to go put your feet in the ground to allow yourselves to relax, not taking their intensity personally. That's going to change everything, because our job isn't to end whatever's going on for them. We probably can't, even if we wanted to. It's to be the calm in the storm. It's to be the regulated one when they're so dysregulated they don't know how to continue on. So if they miss a curfew, or they're having a failing grade, or they're choosing friends that you're unsure about, they're speaking with an edge, uncertainty is probably going to peek its head. It's going to say, hey, you want me to drive? Because this feels really scary. And instead of deciding that this does mean something terrible has happened and attaching to the failure and failing ahead of time, sit in the uncertainty so that you can create something new. Remind yourself that learning takes time, that emotional maturity takes iterations of them feeling these big emotions, and same goes with us. Us getting more and more regulated takes a lot of iterations experiencing big emotions. And reminding yourself, I'm okay with wherever my child is. I'm okay if their maturity hasn't clicked in yet, hasn't developed yet, because our certainty can live in ourselves, in our ability to connect, to guide, to be present, our belief in who they're becoming, not in the moment's outcome. So across all ages, toddlers, tweens, teens, it's our steadiness, our ability to come back to calm, our ability to recenter ourselves and try to be grounded and regulated and present, our ability to tolerate the unknown. That practice of uncertainty tolerance will help not only us, it'll help our kids too, but for us, it helps create the emotional foundation that will allow them to grow, to create a home where they can feel that state from us, that ability to stay in whatever emotion it is and tolerate it. I specifically called out uncertainty, but within an uncertainty, there is the fear of shame, there's blame, there's nervousness, there's anxiety, whatever that looks like, whatever your flavor of uncertainty is, it's being able to tolerate it without it overtaking us. Just sit with it for as long as it lasts. Your willingness to tolerate the unknown becomes the emotional foundation they grow from. You don't need certainty from them. You offer certainty to them. By increasing our ability to tolerate uncertainty, we become more certain in ourselves. And you lead with, I'm okay. Even if this doesn't work out right away, I can be here in the messy middle. Now, let's talk about you for a moment. Not you as the parent handling bedtime or negotiating chores, not you managing emotions, pouring cereal, driving carpools. I want to talk about you as a human being behind the to-do list you have as a mother. You, the person carrying a family in your mind and in your heart. So often I hear moms say, I should be further along. I should be more patient by now. I should have figured out my triggers already. I should balance work and home better. I shouldn't raise my voice. I shouldn't feel overwhelmed. I shouldn't need breaks. Do you hear all the shoulds? We need to stop using shoulds against ourselves or stop shoulding ourselves. And underneath every single one of those statements is a deeper, quieter question. Am I doing enough? Am I doing it right? Am I ruining something? Those thoughts don't come from failure per se. I really believe they come from uncertainty, because motherhood is one of the longest practices of tolerating not knowing how the day will go, not knowing how your child will wake up today, why their mood shifted, not knowing when the next meltdown will hit, not knowing whether this phase will last 2 days or 2 years, not knowing how much to push, not knowing how much to soften, not knowing when to step in, not knowing when to step back, not knowing whether your guidance is landing or pushing them further away, not knowing if you're doing the things today that will help them in the future. Motherhood has got to be one of the most uncertain jobs in the world. If you're watching on YouTube, maybe the video looks different. It's because this work of motherhood just intervened. I was in the middle of recording my podcast and my daughter called me because she needed help deciding something very important to her when she was going to audition for her play. She had many options as far as time. Some would be with friends, some would be without friends. And we spent 30 minutes deciding together when that would be. She did fantastic, by the way. So I had to take care of that, go start dinner because my oldest is in town for just a couple of days and we're eating together. And now I'm back to record the podcast. So motherhood, it's got to be one of the most uncertain jobs in the world, as manifested right this minute in my life. And yet we expect ourselves to know everything. We don't want it to be uncertain. We want to be calm and wise and steady and patient and balanced and intuitive, attuned, emotionally regulated all the time. But I like to think of motherhood as a long apprenticeship in becoming more self-aware, becoming more emotionally grounded and compassionate, regulated, confident, connected, wise, trusting. I could go on and on and on. But we don't start motherhood with these skills. Or if we do, we start with them at a much lower capacity than we do 5, 10, 15, 20 years into motherhood. Because we grow these capacities through the mess, through believing in ourselves, through the uncertainty. Even though we aren't sure what to do next, we believe we can figure it out. We grow through the moments that stretch us, that we wish maybe we could erase. We don't grow through ease. We grow through the struggle. You go through them in the evenings when you cry as you go to bed, wondering if you did the right thing, or thinking through an event that feels like maybe you messed up. We grow in our capacity every time we feel uncertain, and then we repair. Every time we say, let's try again. Every time we choose connection over control. And here's what I want you to hear with your whole heart. You can be uncertain. You will be uncertain. There is no way around being uncertain. That does not take anything away from the experience of being a mother. You are an extraordinary mother because of the uncertainty. Because here's what is certain about you. Your heart is good, even on hard days, even when you wish you hadn't acted that way. Your love is real. It shows up in the small things that you think don't matter, the check-ins, the hugs, the car rides, the texts, the late night conversations, showing up when you're exhausted or you have something else you want to do. Your intention is strong. No mom wakes up hoping to get it wrong. If we could have done better, we would have done better. You are trying. You are trying deeply and fiercely. Your presence, it matters. Even when your child acts like they don't care. Even when they shrug you off. Even when they roll their eyes or they retreat. You matter because you exist in their world. You matter to them even when they don't act like that's the truth. And your small, consistent steps create generational change. Not the grand gestures, not the perfect days, the small ones. The gentle tone you decide to use when you were just on the verge of getting edgy, the way you apologize when you mess up, the way you listen, the way you see your child, the way you refuse to give up. You wouldn't be listening to this podcast if it was any different. And you have more influence than you realize, especially on the days that you feel invisible or unheard or underappreciated. You have so much influence and impact when you are committed to creating a healthy relationship. And you can learn anything you need to learn. There is no growth cutoff in motherhood. You are allowed to evolve at 30, 40, 50, 60, and beyond. Thank goodness. Thank goodness, as I'm almost hitting my 50th birthday in a couple of years. Hallelujah, I can still evolve. Thank goodness I can still grow. We are allowed to be in the process. We should be in the process of growing. And you're allowed to grow at the speed that you grow at. And that is not the speed of perfection. And the most powerful motherhood identity you can carry into every day is this one. I'm okay, even if I'm still becoming. I would even add to that, I'm okay because I'm still becoming. Because you are becoming. And that means you're going to mess up. And that's not a problem. That's not a flaw. That's the point. So as we wrap up this conversation about uncertainty tolerance, I want to give you a sentence you might want to borrow, a sentence you might want to write on your mirror or in your journal or on your phone, maybe a sticky note in your bathroom. Maybe you set up a text reminder so it pops up every so often. It's a sentence to whisper under your breath when your child slams the door or melts down or ignores you or tests you or clings to you or cries. A sentence that you might want to say to yourself when you're tired, when you're overwhelmed, when you're unsure, when you're feeling uncertain, when you're feeling stretched so thin. And here it is. I'm okay, even if this doesn't work right away. My child is okay, even if this doesn't work right away. This sentence is so active. It's not passive. I'm not giving you this sentence so you can kick back and skate through motherhood. It's not resignation. It's not settling. I would call this emotional leadership and ownership. It's the embodiment of connection in action. It's the deep exhale of a mother who knows that she is anchored even when the moment is not. So you're not saying, this doesn't matter, or whatever, let them do what they want, or I give up. No. You're not saying that at all. You're saying, I am grounded. I know who I am. I'm learning to figure out who I am. I don't need instant results to validate me. I trust the process. I trust myself. I trust in human development. I trust that connection works over time. Because here's what you all can be certain of. You are the steady one, even when your child is swirling. You know how to come back. You know how to reconnect. You know how to repair when things have been broken or you've messed up. You know how to expand your emotional capacity by trying again and sitting in the uncertainty, not perfectly, but you're doing this intentionally. You know how to love your child without needing immediate proof that it's working. And this is huge. Connection takes time. Trust takes time. Maturity takes time. So we've got to believe that we're on the right path, even if we're so far from the destination. And that we don't need instant gratification and validation to know that connection works. You trust development more than daily behavior. And that trust creates safety. And that safety creates change. But there is going to be some uncertainty. And that's where uncertainty tolerance comes from. It's love, it's leadership, it's maturity, it's the embodiment of Connect Method parenting. So a few days ago, I was eating probably my 10th piece of pie. I was absolutely loving the pie. My mom makes the best pies. And I was eating a piece of lemon meringue. And I was asking myself, wow, I've really eaten 10 pieces of pie over the last few days. And I was surprised I had downed that many. I was surprised I'd gotten that far. And I know this is a silly analogy, but I want you to go with me on this for a minute. Go with me. Because I was thinking, how in the world did I get to 10 pieces of pie? That's a lot of pie. And honestly, I feel that way in motherhood sometimes too. Life presents you with something, presents you with 34 pies when you only really need one slice of pie. It gives you way more than you expect. And you're given a situation that maybe you're not capable of resisting, like all these pies. I wasn't capable of maybe I could be. But in this moment, I chose not to be capable, or I didn't have the willpower to only eat one piece of pie. So here I am eating 10 pieces of pie. And that's how parenting is going to be. it's going to give you more emotions than you planned for in the moment, or more uncertainty than you feel prepared to sit in, more stretching than feels comfortable. But here's the beautiful and the surprising truth is you can handle more than you think. You can tolerate more uncertainty than your brain believes. Remember, uncertainty tolerance is your ability to hold the space between what you want and when the results actually come in. So you're holding on to what you want to create, the relationships you want to create with your child, the emotional capacity you want to create inside of yourself. But there's a delay between what you want to create to becoming reality in real time. And sometimes we're going to feel uncertain. We're going to wonder if it's ever going to happen. So uncertainty tolerance is something we need to build because it is so important that we have the ability to hold the belief that it's happening, to hold the space between what we want and when the result actually comes in without collapsing or quitting or grabbing onto negative predictions just to feel safe. We all can be the anchor in our child's big emotional storms. We can stay steady in the messy, beautiful middle because the middle is where growth happens. And that is also where uncertainty happens. So we need to grow in our ability to tolerate uncertainty. And that's what I have for you all today. An invitation to create more uncertainty tolerance. And I just want to say thank you so much for taking time out of your day to listen to this. It means the world to me. I love being here with you. I'm so proud of the work you're doing, the work that no one sees, the work that happens in quiet rooms and small moments, the work that literally changes you and your family. You're doing beautifully. I love you, and I'll talk to you next time. And until then, go connect your face off with your kiddos. We'll see you soon. Bye, guys. If you enjoyed listening to this podcast, come check out my Connect Method Parenting Coaching Program, where we take this material and we apply it using my proven formula. Head over to cmp.works/join.